We go. Ladies and germs, welcome again to the Side C podcast. I'm your host, Victor Martinez. I'm joined by Eric Nesbitt, the pride of Barstow, Jake Turner, and part two, we are welcoming guest Eric Gustafson back. So welcome back.
Welcome back.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
So the way this came about is, we had such a good time at Roz Talks again, so thanks for hosting us, guys. Ben down there was gracious enough to let us come in and use the neat little setup he has upstairs, and I'm hoping to get back up there and try it out. So thanks to Roz Talks, thanks to Ben. But we decided that night that we were going to go ahead and try to run another one, and we enjoyed Mr. Gustafson so much. We had you back. So thanks for coming back, man.
Yeah, thanks. It's awesome. It was fun, and I'm sure it's going to be fun tonight talking about music that embarrasses us.
Yeah,
so especially,
I have to tell you guys, I don't have a guilty pleasure, so this is kind of just something I'm not ashamed to say what I like.
Yeah, I was expecting like a Backstreet Boys from somebody, but we don't. None of us picked that, obviously. So
no, there's some good ones.
I don't know.
Online
We haven't.
right now that I'm writing
man.
down that some of the people.
we're talking about. Oh
yeah. So I'm gonna write those down real quick, and we can get to those here in a bit.
Also, let me bring up the fact that thank you guys for putting the likes on the podcast page, man. We really enjoy it, and it was cool just to see a nice spike in one day of all you guys.
Yeah,
so.
it was a pretty big climb. It was like 30% in less than 24 hours, so that was amazing. Thank you guys.
And again, make sure you're sharing and liking, and make sure you interact on the posts along with the QC Music Lovers,
Collectors and traders
Facebook page. So we still, we're full force with that. So we got some things lining up here nicely for us here at Side C. So we're ready to get on the road.
And we would like also to give a big thanks out to all the new members that Greg Thompson has brought to us the Quad City Music Lovers, Collectors and Traders group. He's brought on a lot of really informative people, so it's going to be really neat to interact with some new members.
Yeah, and guys that know what they're talking about too, more so than me. So awesome. But yeah, keep at it, guys. We really love the support, and it's awesome to see. So that's why we keep doing what we're going to do. And and this isn't really the episode. I'm looking forward to this episode because, like, again, we're going to talk about interesting things. I feel like I don't have to defend this guilty pleasure, but a lot of people think that this would be considered one, so I have no problem doing that. So, with that being said, real quick, I can't forget our sponsors, the pool man, Mark Reedy. We'll get his number here on the end of this post later. Make sure for all your above and below ground pool needs, you give the pool man a call. Ready for the summer coming up, and then Rolling Smoke Barbecue. Make sure you go check them out on 30th Street behind Kavanaugh's, right up there by the PepsiCo Center. They got great deals going on, and the next time we're on, they're going to have a burger basket special just for us and our listeners and our fans that show up. And we actually did have fans that showed up. So
and there was $5 burger baskets and $10 half rack of ribs, correct?
Yep. And it was delicious.
It was. It really was. So,
hit the spot.
Hey, Eric, maybe you could come up with us one of these days and meet everybody there and enjoy a nice.
Yeah,
burger.
I'm always down for good food and everything. I've been to Kavanaugh's a few times, but I have not been to that place. So yeah, that would be good.
That's
that
pretty
would be
new.
really good.
It's pretty new. They started last year, so
Nice.
it's good to see.
And we're also trying to, if you guys didn't notice on the Quad City Music Lovers page, there's a Lucifuge burger, inspired burger, Danzig Lucifuge burger. And so now, since the recipe's out there, we're trying to coax Mr. Mitchell Woods into creating his own Lucifuge burger.
Yep.
Like right now, I'm not trying to get on food, but right now there's a big push for anything spicy. Like even like the fast food restaurants are doing it now.
Habaneros and sriracha's.
Yeah, and it's all garbage. I want like a real burger, and I think Mitchell Woods can pull it off.
And I also saw that the special ingredient is black barbecue sauce.
Ooh,
Wow, black barbecue
Black
sauce.
barbecue
black
sauce.
I
metal
wonder
barbecue
what
sauce.
makes it black.
I'm not a
evilness.
I think it's the evil.
Yeah, there's so much evil in one burger. So
Wow, I'm gonna have to try it. I'm kind of scared.
my specialty is not the culinary arts.
yeah, that's otherwise it'd be a different story. But anyways, we could let's jump right into evil because I want to start things off. I'm going to go ahead and start things off as I usually do, with my guilty pleasure, and we did post this on the Facebook earlier this week. A lot of people consider Coldplay being pretty evil and pretty lame, but you know what? Forget you guys, and it's not a guilty pleasure. I am proud of saying that I'm a Coldplay fan. So I know I know a lot of people that don't like him, but I also know a lot of people that do like him. Man, they're a English rock band from London, and you know, they have been around close to about 20 years now together. I think '96 they got together and toyed around with the lineup, and you know, but I think it consisted of Johnny Buckland and Chris Martin at first, and then eventually the full band ended up being Chris Martin as the vocalist, Johnny Buckland as the guitar player, Guy Berryman as the bass player, and Will Champion as the drummer. Which, you know, that, hey man, no, I'm trying to remember how I came across them, but I think it was the video on MTV that kind of helped them rocket up to stardom here and all over the world. Was Yellow, which was off of that.
I dig that tune.
Yeah,
Sorry, I really do.
It is
a
good.
Tune. That's a good tune.
It was off of that Parachutes album.
Parachutes,
Yes.
Yeah.
But their follow up album, A Rush of Blood to the Head, man, that was critically acclaimed as well, because you know a lot of people were expecting a lot out of these guys. So
Very U2-ish.
you think?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
actually sort of a good, like a modern comparison, I guess.
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah,
Like
I
kind
really
of a more
do.
modern thing.
I would have to say that if they were going to be compared to U2, it'd be the early U2.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
maybe.
those were like those were definitely like early U2 was a very unique kind of interesting sound, but wasn't as hard as what they eventually turned into. I mean, I don't know how hard you want to say U2 is, but I'm just
a little bit.
yeah,
Maybe.
Well,
just a little bit. Did you guys get? Who has an iPhone? Do you have an iPhone?
I do not. I
I
did
have
not
an
get that
iPhone, yeah.
download
Yeah,
either.
that album I downloaded, the U2 album, by the way, that got
Yeah.
downloaded. But anyways, no, you know, I think it was that you're right, Jake. That song was really good, and I enjoyed it a lot. So it kind of led me into, you know,
It
going
was
into
one of
that.
those things. I got the CD that you used or whatever because of that song. I remember like driving in that, like I was 16, so I'd be like driving my car to school, something like that, and that'd be the song like I just play over and over and over again.
Yeah.
because I liked it so much. Like, and I didn't really give the rest of the album any like a chance. Honestly, I probably should have. But like, I mean, I got a lot of buddies that like them. Like,
Yeah.
you know, they like Coldplay
Yeah.
and they think they're a great band. I got buddies that spent buku bucks to go see them up in Chicago because they put on an amazing show.
Yeah.
Right.
And you know, and they are talented. I mean, and
Yeah, they definitely are, and they write their own stuff, which is
Yeah.
Which
the
is
most
rare.
important
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
With like pop music and stuff, I respect anybody, no matter what style that they're doing, if they're creating their own thing.
Yeah.
You know, if they have someone else writing the songs and playing doing all that stuff, then to me it just seems like the motivation is more of like a paycheck, and they're trying. It's
Yeah.
a marketing type of thing where the vocalist or they're just being used as a tool, and
Yeah.
someone else is behind it making money, and then those bands changed the direct. Hey, who were we talking about last week? The guy from Poison, and we were talking about how he's transitioned. He's done country, and he's done.
Oh
Michaels,
yeah,
yeah.
Bret
And you're like,
Michaels.
and I wonder why he doesn't, he doesn't stand by where he was from. But I think because probably, and I don't know the guy or anything, but he's probably just, his motivation
patient
is
that-
money.
yeah, right.
So he sees, there's country pop is making, boom, I'm going to do country pop. Oh, reality TV. Oh, well,
Yeah,
know,
you
I'm
don't have
gonna
to
do
worry
that.
about that ever happen with Coldplay.
No.
They're going to stand by
Right.
it.
So and that's what's going to make them. They're going to probably sound kind of like Coldplay always.
Yeah.
And they make their own stuff, like I said. So
Well, the thing that when I first listened to Coldplay, it was off the Parachutes album, and watched a video when MTV still showed videos.
Yeah.
But anyway, that album in 2001 received accolades at the Brit Awards, and it also received Best Alternative Album in 2002 at the Grammys.
Yep. And the thing with these guys is they are constantly putting out records that are hits with people, like, you know, especially the radio friendly crowd. they've gotten a lot of Grammy nods along the way, and a big chunk of those was their Viva La Vida
That album was
album.
huge.
Yeah, it was really huge. The tour that followed too, and what you were saying about your friends in Chicago that went to go see him. I wish I could have went and gone and seen him, but I don't. I think I was I wasn't able to get to there, but they played like multiple nights, like 2 nights in Chicago on each of their tours. So.
It's one of those things where they barely tour, so when you get
Yeah.
a chance to go see them, you have to get them because you might not see them again for 5 or 7 years. I don't even. When was the last time these guys even toured?
Okay, they toured last summer because their last release was Ghost Stories.
Okay.
Actually, it's going to be coming up on its year birthday coming up. It came out May 20th, I think, of last year. But even that tour was very minimal because they only did a few intimate dates. They did it at Royal Albert Hall in England.
Yep.
They did one at the Beacon Theater in New York. They did one. They didn't do one in Chicago. They did one in Los Angeles. I'm not sure where that venue was. And Washington. Only a select few dates, and I was really bummed because they didn't come to Chicago. I was like, that would have been cool. And the setup they had for that. Now that's the other thing about this band that I like is that their productions are great because. Yeah, kind of. I know what you guys were saying with the money thing. Kind of, some bands do it for the buck, but this band does it because they love it and they love to put on a good show. That's why I was saying this last tour was, it might have been small and whatnot, but the setup. If you haven't seen it, watch the Ghost Stories live DVD. It's amazing. Excuse me, yes. But it
You
really
guys are
is.
just going to abuse that adjective. What can I say?
Sorry, do I need the ding bell for that? But Ghost Stories was really amazing because they used, I don't know what it is. Maybe one of you guys know. It's one of those weird like circle devices, and you put blocks on it, and it has certain frequencies. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Like, have you
I've seen one of those used before.
yeah, I can't remember what it like MIDI controllers or something like that, or I really don't know.
I don't know.
But yeah.
Well, on to the touring thing that you were talking about.
Yeah.
On the X and Y album, in 2005 to 2006, Coldplay went on tour, but it was very limited.
Yeah.
It was called the Twisted Logic Tour.
Oh, yep.
It included festival dates at Coachella, Isle of Wight Festival, Glastonbury, and the Austin City Limits Music Festival.
Oh,
And then in 2005, the band appeared at Live 8 in Hyde Park, where they played a rendition of the Verve's Bittersweet Symphony.
Yep.
So it's very limited on where they play, and it kind of looks like it's a toss up in the air of what they're going to play
Yeah.
from their library and possibly other bands' libraries
Yeah.
as well.
And the thing I was bummed about that X and Y tour is they weren't really big fans of their X and Y album. I was. I loved it. The Talk is one of my favorite songs of all time. Like, it's probably like my favorite song of all time. I can listen to that and never get tired of it. I mean, I think we all have that one song or a couple songs,
Oh, yeah.
but that's my favorite song. But they were not. I don't think they refused to play it. They don't like to play it live. I think I was reading in an interview that Guy Berryman doesn't like to play it, and since they respect each other, they kind of do.
Coldplay X and Y album is considered Judas Priest Turbo.
Is that what could we call it that?
Yeah, because they hate playing songs
Yeah.
like that. I mean,
There you go.
It's funny though. Like every band's got those songs. Like some of them they refuse, like they hate playing, but there's some of them that they have to play those songs that they hate just because they were hits or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're always gonna play Yellow in My Place.
You know?
Yeah, that's funny how there's bands that they'll just omit one whole album from their tour. Like Chili Peppers, One Hot Minute, that one. They don't
Yeah.
play
Oh, really?
anything from
Yeah.
that ever.
Huh. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, but luckily they do take a lot. I think they're up to like 5 or 6 studio albums, but I'm a big fan of all their stuff. Their LPs and the EPs, Brothers and Sisters, and I think Blue Room was one of them. I think on there. So, but yeah, I mean, I have Coldplay Live 2003. I have Ghost Stories Live, and I'm waiting on Milo Xyloto. Real quick on Milo Xyloto, that tour was incredible because they had this whole thing, confetti stuff like flying out, a big light stage setup,
Nice.
and very interactive artwork because they went with a graffiti artist on that, and
Oh, that's awesome.
and they designed these things called Xylo bands, and they had about 10,000 per show or something like that, and the fans would get it. and it would be these radio frequencies that emit through the control booth, and the lights would go off during the songs. Like it was like a different pattern each time.
That's
so
awesome.
yeah, and it was
Wow, I had not heard that before.
2 shows in Chicago, and I missed both of them. I was so mad about that.
So they would sell these wristbands to people,
I
and
think
then
they
it would.
gave them like
Or they'd give
the
it to them,
first
so
10
everybody had them, and
Yeah.
then there would be patterns, and it would
Yeah,
it
like
would
the radio
manipulate light patterns during the show.
Yeah, it would go with the song, and it would change, and like
Wow.
you watch the Coldplay Live 2012 DVD. You'll see what I'm talking about. Guys, check it out. I really enjoy it. I did order one off of eBay. I ordered 2 of them off
Did
of
you?
eBay. I did, because they're so cool. And I got one to work. If you stick like a little pin in it, you
Yeah.
can and the lights turn
So
on.
you stick it into a light switch.
Yeah, yeah.
It lights up and explodes for a little
So yeah, so they're cool. I have 2 of them. I have a green and pink one, and I have a white pink one, and I love them.
Well, here's a little interesting tidbit about Coldplay.
Sure.
On the 19th of October in 2011, Coldplay performed songs at Apple Incorporated for a private memorial event for Steve Jobs, including the album Viva La Vida. Right?
Yep.
So that's kind of interesting.
That is cool. Yeah, man. They're big supporters of the Apple thing. They were at the iTunes Festival, where they debuted a lot of the Ghost Story stuff last year. So, overall, this band, got me through a lot. I like to connect to some of their songs, their music, and their sound is just. I really enjoy it with their Ghost Stories. They kind of went back to the older sounding Coldplay, with a little bit of. They did have a little bit of EDM kind of with that. Oh, I'm drawing a brain fart right now. The Sky Full of Stars. That was did with Avicii. You know the big EDM guy.
Yeah.
They made that together with him, but they've worked with plenty of people. Brian Eno. They worked with Phil Harvey's like their manager, but they consider him like the 5th member. And Rihanna, Princess of China, man. Jay-Z. They have a pretty good track with Jay-Z, and they're not my guilty pleasure. I love them. I don't care. They're not a guilty pleasure.
I would have to say that, when you talk about guilty pleasure,
Yeah.
I don't really think that all of the selections that we've selected tonight, we're ashamed to say that we listen to this,
Yeah.
per se.
I am a little bit with mine.
Are you? A little-
Yeah.
I can come on your end of things. But
Hold that thought, Jake.
But that being said, is that, what is one person's guilty pleasure is one other person's just regular pleasure.
Right.
So.
Well, exactly, and I think that's what this is kind of all about. It's kind of funny because when I put that thing on the Facebook page, and I was like, "So what are some of yours?" And like people started going off, and like one person would mention like Alanis Morissette, and everybody else is like, "What's wrong with liking that record?
exactly.
What's wrong with liking Alanis?" So
Well, we have to admit, from what we listen to per se, what we're giving people right now, kind of maybe catch people
off guard,
off guard a little bit.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah,
going,
it's
what?
not typically what we would have in the.
It's not something I'm going to be
Right.
listening to in my car anytime soon or nothing.
And then not only that, when someone hears, most of these bands have been established in some point, so they're going to be on a nationwide radio type thing, and so you'll hear 1 or 2 songs out of 6 or 7 albums. So one person might hear that one song and be like, "Oh, I remember 10 years ago, God, you like that?" But they never heard a single other song on there.
Exactly.
So they
That's
have no clue, except so they're basing their whole idea on a band on one song, which maybe that band didn't even like to begin with,
Right.
and someone put on there because, hey, look, it's going to give you some exposure, and you can get... And
That's a
so
very
that's
good
another
point.
reason why people are considering it a guilty pleasure.
Yep.
But I don't know. I don't know what yours is, so I'm not gonna.
I
but I
do.
promise I'm not gonna judge you. But I might judge
Oh,
you.
you're no judge. You're gonna judge.
I'm gonna, as Jake introduces this,
Right.
I have some little tidbits that I know about this that will make it kind of cool. So.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that. Yeah. Before I get into mine, though, like I said, I posted on Facebook to get everybody else's input on some of their guilty pleasures. I'm gonna just read off some of these because they're kind of fun. We had one guy put down Bon Jovi.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah.
All depends
rather-
on what album,
Yeah.
though.
I think he actually put down New Jersey as the album.
Not the coolest selection.
Yeah, right.
I would probably rather eat a fart than listen to
Shit crystals.
I would shit, literally, shit crystals.
One
I
guy,
could get
Kevin,
out and
put
listen
down
to that.
Chromeo. I believe that's a rap artist. I have
Yeah,
no
I think it
idea.
is.
Another buddy of mine, Kevin, put down Lady Gaga.
Yeah.
My buddy Devin put down Coldplay.
Yeah, yeah. which I liked instantly.
Right. one of my friends, Lee, put down Luda.
Oh, Ludacris.
And her husband, Corey, put down Bruno Mars, which I can...
You know, that guy does have a good voice,
and
but
he-
I would never admit it
Right.
outside of this podcast.
Right?
Uptown Funk is the hottest song of the last
Oh, dude,
year.
I hear it every place I go now. One of my friends, Natalie, which is hilarious because she's like this big, like, black metal chick and stuff like that. She put down Dixie Chicks. I thought that was probably the best
Yeah.
guilty pleasure
But
admittance.
she really does like Dixie Chicks,
Yes.
or she was
no,
just trying to...
no. She's being
Wow.
honest. Like, no, because I said, "Are you joking around?" She goes, "No, I'm dead serious." It's,
Probably has their whole catalog on the phone.
Wow.
one of my friends, Brandon, put down David Bowie.
Nice.
That is not
That's
a guilty
awesome.
pleasure. Not a guilty
I don't
pleasure.
know
at all.
how it could. Tin
And,
Machine, all that stuff he did was...
No.
And
Tin
then-
Machine, man.
That's awesome.
One of my
That's
friends,
badass.
the drummer from the band Forecast out of Peoria, put down Taylor Swift. So
Ouch. All right. That,
No,
I'm going
I-
to crack this beer
yeah,
for that one. I'm going to need some...
Yeah.
see now,
Yeah.
I put that one down last for a reason because it kind of goes into mine. It's not Taylor, but it's pretty
Thank
close.
God it's not
All right.
Taylor.
It's-
You get ready to eat a turd right
I'm
now.
going to eat it. Hang on. I'm getting it ready.
My guilty pleasure is Pink.
Really?
Yes,
Pink.
I like Pink.
Tell me, explain to me why you like Pink.
Yes,
and
yes,
I could
dude.
probably kind of get behind that a little bit.
Well,
I could kind of see.
I'll give you some tidbits here.
My
First
wife
off,
likes Pink.
Oh,
First off, she plays guitar, piano. She plays drums.
So she's a musician.
she's actually a
That's-
musician.
That's a good start.
I mean, she got her.
no, I'm just, I have it ready.
No, that's a good start. That's a good ding.
Ding.
That's what you want to hear.
She used to sneak into clubs when she was like 14 in Philly and sing and stuff. She used to be like in
Right.
the R&B stuff.
Yeah.
And then she, I got some stuff written down here. She was getting sick and tired of like being in that like R&B pop stuff, you know, like that
Yeah,
rap hip hop stuff.
That's exactly what I thought she was classified as.
In that, well, she got classified in that. And she got sick of it, so she actually hooked up with the lead singer from Four Non Blondes, and she wrote. And they actually
Four
sat.
Non Blondes.
She had actually sat down and wrote a record, and that's when
Wow.
when she like started coming out with like this really like all of her songs past that like whatever that first record was. I don't even remember the name of it.
Misunderstood?
No,
Yes,
that's
that was the second one.
That's the second. That's the one she wrote with the chick from Four Non Blondes, Linda Perry. That was her name.
I
But
said F, sorry.
and she
That's what that's
yeah, and so that's when she started writing her own songs. And they're like all honest because before that she had that one of those hip hop labels. I forgot to write it down, but the guy.
Jive? Was she on Jive?
Yeah,
Yes.
Jive Records?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
believe she was, wasn't
Yeah.
she? The
And-
Backstreet Boys label.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and stuff like that. So then when she came out with this Misunderstood, they actually sat down around kind of like what we're doing right now, and they actually wrote songs.
Yeah.
And that's when some of her bigger, like, more personal songs came out. Like, because they're all honest,
Yeah.
which I respect, first off, because she writes her own songs.
Yeah, and that's huge. You can't be a sellout if you're writing your own stuff and you're a musician.
No.
You're playing instruments and
Yeah.
things.
And then,
I
like,
mean, I guess you could, of course.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're saying personal stuff and you're putting it to music, that's
Yeah.
that's creative and
I mean, she's got songs about her parents' divorce, stuff like
Yeah.
that. I mean, it's really honest. And when she plays live, she has an actual band behind her.
which is
It's not sample tracks, and it's not her, like, just having, like, a fake mic that's not plugged in. She's
Right.
actually live.
God,
She has a
yeah.
live mic.
Yeah.
So I respect that, and she puts on a hell of a show. Like now, she does all that like
Yeah.
twirling in this like the rope stuff, you know,
Yeah,
twirling in the sky.
like the circus.
Yeah, yeah, she does
Circus
that while
Soleil,
while
Circus
singing,
Soleil.
and
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
tell she's actually singing because if you like watch live stuff, she's out of breath half the time while she's doing it because she puts on
Wow.
such a good show.
She did, and you know, I was watching the Grammys like last year or 2 years ago, where she performed with that guy from Fun,
Yeah,
and she did that routine, and I was like, "Is she holy shit? Is she really singing?" Oh, I'm sorry. Is she really singing? So there you go.
oh, man, you're gonna wear that speaker out.
Yeah, I know. But she was
Son of a
actually
bitch.
ding.
so no, she was actually singing during that, and I think and also when you mentioned that she has a live band with her, that was pretty cool. Like I
Yeah.
didn't know that she did that.
So it's like now she's more of like a I don't want to say rock because it's more like it's a pop, but it's more like a pop rock. It's like
Right.
and it's just honest music, which I love. And she actually wrote a record with Tim Armstrong from
Green Day- or-
Rancid,
yeah.
right?
Oh, from
Yeah,
Rancid, that's right.
And that was a more heavy album too. So I mean, she's definitely got like talent, and it's not like pop garbage that you hear on the radio 95% of the time. That's
Yeah.
like you know, it's unpassionate, you know, stuff like that. This is like real, and she writes her own stuff.
So,
yes.
oh yes, you did save yourself. We don't have to use it.
Now, here's the thing: is that on the Misunderstood album, there's supposed to be studio tracks of Peter Hook on bass for her.
Peter
Now
Hook,
that's the rumor. I don't know.
legend.
I don't really know if it's accredited on that album. But if you listen to some of the top 40 stuff that was played on the radio at the time, you can hear that definite bass line that Peter puts
Right.
out.
So
Yep.
you believe
Yeah,
that it is.
he's got
Well,
a
because
really,
usually
he's got a
when-
really distinct bass line.
And usually when it comes to stuff like that, they sign non-disclosure waivers where they cannot say who they played for. Like when the guys tell me,
Studio album.
the guy from Whitesnake that just left. Well, I can't
Oh,
think of his name.
Doug Aldridge.
Doug Aldridge did all of Lady Gaga's stuff a couple hours
Yeah,
ago.
yeah, you posted that.
Yeah,
Somebody
and,
posted
and
that.
he wasn't allowed to say, so
No.
they kind of talked
No.
around it, where you knew who.
Right.
Yeah.
Why
What
is
was talking
that?
about?
Why can't they do that? You would think they would want to do that.
I think it's more of like,
I think it's more privacy to the singer.
Yeah.
It's like so it's
herself.
not like taking any
Right.
attention
yeah,
away
like
from the
hey,
actual
the new
singer.
Lady Gaga album features lead guitar player
Right.
from Whitesnake.
Yeah,
I mean, that's not going to help her very much.
Yeah, because it's two.
It used to be
are
the
you
thing to
saying
do.
because it's
Yeah.
two very different
Yeah.
genres, and so maybe.
Well,
You know, I appreciate that you said that stuff because I just kind of passed her stuff over. My wife likes Pink, and so I've heard some stuff before, and it's okay. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, it's okay, but it's processed through. I didn't know
Yeah,
all
dude.
that stuff
Yeah,
that
it's-
you said.
yeah,
so that's
it's-
gonna, that makes me respect her when I hear it again.
It makes me want to listen to it.
Right.
And that's one of those things like, working where I work, I hear stuff over the speaker.
Yeah,
and every once in a while, if one of her songs come on, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I can rock out to this. This is fine.
Right.
Doing my thing, whatever, listen to it. But no, like her first record to me is complete garbage. It was all like that processed hip hop crap that was big at the time.
She wore the
it
same.
wasn't even really. I mean, it really kind of shamed hip hop, old school hip hop.
Yeah,
artists, too,
by far. It was just one of it was just that garbage at that time. But when she actually got control of what she could do, where she's like, I'm going to do what I want and how I want to, she kind of came into her own. She has Janis Joplin and Madonna down as her like top influences.
I could definitely see Madonna. That's kind of
Yeah.
interesting.
Now, do you think that since she got Linda Perry in to produce the album, the Misunderstood album,
Yeah.
correct? And I believe that's the album with Peter Hook with
Yeah.
his bass lines in it. Obviously, she probably can pull some weight on bringing some of the probably top notch talent.
Oh,
talent
Yeah,
in there.
I'm
Yeah.
sure she's got a
And,
little
if it was Pink without Linda Perry, I'm not quite sure she's bringing them type of artists to come in.
probably.
No, probably not. And then like I said, she brought in Tim Armstrong too, and they co-wrote a whole record together.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and that one's called "Try This," I believe.
Try
No,
This?
yeah, and it was
Is
more.
it the one with the you in your hand tonight about like masturbating? Or
Yeah,
something?
yeah, I think so actually.
Do you have to ding? Do you have to ding for that?
No,
Yeah.
no,
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 no.
no. Hey, some of the best love is the love we give ourselves.
Right.
Hey, no, you're right.
Nobody can love you like
Yeah,
yourself.
it's crazy. I thought I was the only one that thought that.
Nope, we're all guilty here. Maybe that's a guilty pleasure.
pleasure.
Literally.
That's more of a guilty confession.
Whatever.
Well, like I say, my right hand is my wife, my left hand's my mistress.
My mistress sucks.
Are you ambidextrous there?
She got issues.
I don't know.
I'm telling you. Well,
That just makes perfect
Yeah, there you go. So, hey, maybe when I'm throwing that Pink album, I'll just be like, why do I want to? Why do I want to fap it right now? When that song comes on, it's like, oh,
You're gonna come on like, why do I want to use my left hand instead of my right?
yeah. Well, hey, Jake, and you were hitting on the thing. We were just talking about the rotating artists and stuff that come in, and that kind of, I think I touched on that last time with the Nuno Betancourt thing and with Rihanna last show. So, I mean, that's awesome, and that's cool to know. Like I said, hey, I think I'm gonna go ahead and give those a listen because I'm interested. I mean, I didn't
There's
know
some.
that.
She's got some really good tunes, and like with like any music, like I like honesty. Like somebody that can sit there and write a tune and just basically put exactly how they're feeling, exactly what they're going through at the time, no matter how embarrassing it might be to let everybody in the world know exactly what you're going through at that exact moment. That's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that takes balls. It really does. Like to put exactly what you're going through, like no matter how depressing or whatever it may be.
Yeah,
And I
it
think
definitely
that's
does.
and that's that just gets my respect off the top. So
Awesome, man. Well,
Yeah.
again, I'm definitely gonna give that a listen and kind of
yeah, she's got some good tunes, man.
look,
It's just
look for
something.
that stuff. So
It's something that, like, if I didn't tell you who it was, you saw some chick rock band or something like that. Her voice is pretty
Yeah.
indistinguishable.
You know what's funny though? I don't really. I mean, she's a good-looking gal, but I don't really find her that attractive. But she's got a great voice. I will say that.
I don't mind looking at her.
Oh, I
I
mean,
won't
who
bitch.
doesn't? Who doesn't? I'm just saying.
Especially since she put on a little weight. That sounds weird. But when
Did
she's
she?
like that skin and bones, like she's smoking crack. Not a fan of that.
Yeah.
Oh, we're not fans of the crack here, so unless it's butt crack, like a nice
Right,
butt crack.
and then it depends.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
really depends.
So,
I
got
can't,
so many
I
bad
can't, I can't be more clear.
we have to.
It really depends.
We might have to just tread off that.
Right.
So here's the weird segue from bad things
Right.
on our mind, masturbating, and all that stuff.
This episode
So-
brought to you by the
So
Ladies
from
Strip
Pink's
Club.
crack to hey, do you ever? She's got super short arms. Have you ever noticed that?
No, I haven't.
No.
Next time you see her, check out her arms.
Pull up a
Her
picture.
arms her arms don't go to the length of a regular person, and I
Is
can't
she
get
like
past that.
CeeLo Green, like the T-Rex arms
Oh,
going on?
I
don't
CeeLo
know.
Green has got some T-Rex arms.
She has
dude.
some T-Rex going.
As soon as this is over, I'm gonna go look for it.
Yeah, but also maybe I also didn't know that. I'm glad that you said all that stuff because I would have never guessed that about Pink, about her being an actual musician and and doing all that and writing all that stuff. I just hear the music and look at those little stubby arms and I just pass it right on through. So now you know what? I can get past those little things,
Well,
and I'm gonna listen to the music now.
Yeah, I think, and that's what we're here
That's
for.
that. You know what?
Yeah.
If you check it out, you actually, what? This isn't too bad.
No more stubby arms. Just
Right,
music.
right. Who cares about
Then,
stubby
now
arms?
since you say that, I wonder what her elbows and kneecaps look like.
I was gonna say that, but I couldn't remember the pet peeve that you had. I couldn't remember if it was like
If
a
it-
different colored knees that you had.
Discolored,
Oh,
dark in
yeah.
pigmentation.
Oh.
That's
on the
what it
elbows.
is.
Yeah.
The
And
dark.
underneath.
It looks like you don't wash yourself.
When
Wow.
I see ladies like that, I just want to say, do you exfoliate everything? Your
Right.
drums?
I don't.
Real quick
feel
before we
like
get
I'm
into the next one, I forgot one of our fans posted on their guilty pleasure, and it's Greg Thompson.
Oh.
Can anybody here guess?
Lincoln Park.
Linkin Park.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Hey, did
did
he
like
also
that.
do? Did he also post off Frankie Goes to Hollywood?
No, that was Matt Wilkins that did that.
That was an awesome
That
one.
was a
When
good
I
one.
saw that, I was like, "Holy crap, that's awesome!" I
Fra-
loved Frankie.
I don't
Goes
even
to
think that
Hollywood.
is a guilty pleasure.
Frankie
I thought.
Says We're
I mean,
Live.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's-
it was such over the top homosexual.
Oh,
thing
yeah,
with
yeah.
ladies.
Yeah.
And it was so over the top.
Yeah,
It was, but that music
Taboo.
was so badass, and it was just like when you saw him in like the fur coats with the gloves and just that music was so cool, and that was awesome that he put that down because I just didn't catch that because that was in like a little blip,
Right.
Yeah, you kind of have to pay attention.
and I just
so-
totally forgot about Frankie Goes
We
to
can do
Hollywood.
many guilty pleasures.
Yeah, it's,
podcasts. That's for sure.
It was just fun seeing what everybody else's was because like everybody had like different views, personalities. Like we're talking about like what they think their guilty pleasure is. so-
Yeah, that might be a good idea to like ask that when you guys do a podcast. And then sort of bring it up during the podcast.
which
a
is
couple
exactly
of
what
things,
we're
like
doing
what,
right
yeah,
now.
like what you're doing right now.
I think from like now on, I think that'd be something that we should do.
Right.
Remind me when we have Greg on. I need to ask him about that because I'm curious. I mean, I like Linkin Park. I really do. so-
When he put it down, that completely shocked me because he's not like
Yeah, no, he's got a. Yeah.
I'm going to refuse to say that I have any input on a Linkin Park anything. I'm sorry.
Well, I don't like Linkin Park at all, but I listen to you know who Tim Ferriss is?
Yep.
He did the 4 Hour Body, 4 Hour Work Week, all that
Yep.
stuff. Well, I listened to a podcast of him, and he brought on the guy from Linkin Park, who he
There's many
fronts
guys.
from
Chester
Stone Temple
Bennington.
Pilots.
yeah.
Chester Bennington.
Yeah, Chester, that's his name. And he's actually a really bright guy, and he's got it going on pretty good. I don't like Linkin Park at all. I can't stand Linkin Park,
Yeah.
but, that's another band that if I wouldn't have heard that interview, now I
wouldn't have
still
known,
I
yeah.
still won't listen to them. But,
At least you can respect him
right,
for
at least
being
exactly.
an intelligent
Right,
individual.
right. And he's got regular sized arms, too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That I can get on.
He was. I mean, that's one of those things where we should always keep our ears open and our minds open. So.
Yeah, because
Right.
you never know who's doing the real stuff.
Not
Right.
what- it sounded like you said Rio, so that's a perfect segue.
Hey!
But you said Rio, but I heard Rio, which
Yeah.
leads into Eric.
Awesome. So when they asked me, it was so nice. They asked me to come back. This is such an awesome podcast. I love music and everything. And they said, hey, why don't you come up with some sort of guilty pleasure? So I was thinking back in my mind of what I thought, which I really, really liked. And back at some point in my life that
Yeah.
might seem kind of awkward now. And the first thing that came to mind was Oingo Boingo, which I loved. There's a CD called Only a Lad that just sort of like changed things for me. And everything. But I went back and listened to it, and it was just so hideous for me to listen to. Like, this voice just was, I couldn't believe I was so into Oingo Boingo. So if it's a guilty pleasure, to me, it would be something that I really liked at some point and then can listen to now and be like, yeah, that's nice.
Well, Oingo Boingo is an acquired taste.
They're an acquired
Oh,
taste, and at that time in my life, for whatever reason, I thought it was awesome. But now, in my life has changed in certain ways, and I listened to it, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's!" And I'd be like turning it down in case anyone happened to hear me. But you know what he does now? He does movie soundtracks and
Yes, he
stuff,
does.
and they're awesome. All the
Yeah.
Tim Burton films, all that stuff, he does awesome. So he's made well for
They
himself.
played at the Call Ballroom.
I'm sure
Back
they
when we were in
did.
high school, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I would
Oingo Boingo,
never ever go see them, but
You wouldn't want to be caught down.
when I was in 5th grade or whatever grade that was, maybe 6th or whatever.
Well, that was when they were on the top of their game, the Dead Man's Party.
Dead Man's Party,
Weird
and that
Science
was
and all
when
that.
I saw Weird Science,
Yep.
and I think that's how that main song. I think that's how I was like, who is this? And that's maybe how I got into them, because back then we didn't have the internet.
Right.
You go to the library and look it up in the cards where
pick
you
up the
pull out the
magazines,
shelf
yeah.
and you.
That
Yeah.
Hanes getting to you there,
It's
buddy.
Encyclopedia Britannica.
So I ended up going with Duran Duran. And I don't really listen to Duran Duran a lot now.
I do.
But I love Duran Duran. And so I started thinking, what is it, like, what was it that I liked? And I think as much as I liked the music, it was during that time of my life is what brings back good memories. And I was in, like... I was in like 6th grade, and I was starting to think girls were pretty cool and everything, and they were sort of like a little bit risque, and they had videos that were way more badass than other videos, and you can tell they put in a lot of money towards those videos, and they're a little bit weird and a little bit sexual, and I was going to a Baptist private school at the time that was
Oh,
insanely strict to the point where like they didn't really want the families to have TVs because there's too many temptations and stuff. Although we always had TVs.
Right.
No,
No,
I
I'm
wasn't all into it like that.
But that's kinda
But
what's going on.
when you got the clamps on you like that, all through we had to have our hair cut a certain way, all that stuff. So when you got the clamps on you, when you're not in school, you will freaking. That's like a dog that's been on a chain and it's jerking at the chain, and all of a sudden it busts loose and it just freaking takes off at a mad sprint for like 5 miles.
That's why
Well,
most
I was a dog sprinting a mad sprint for 5 miles, watching girls on film. Oh my God, there was boobs in that video. I'd never seen. I remember back in the day, and you guys are younger than Eric and I.
Yeah.
But back in the day, they didn't, before they had the VHS or the VCR tapes, they had these big, huge discs, and they were
Yeah.
like records.
Yeah.
And you
Laser,
put them
yeah,
in,
yeah.
a laser disc,
Disc, yeah.
and then it would say, hey, please return, and you'd have to flip
Flip it
over the
over,
disc.
yep.
Well, we went to where there was a place to rent those things where Arthur's Deli is now, and there was a place where
It wasn't the Hogan's Video. was
yeah,
it?
Hogan's Video. So
Okay.
my dad would rent like War Games or all that kind of stuff. There was movies back then, and I went with him, and I got that Duran Duran thing, and everybody went to bed, and I put that on, and I was like, oh my God. And it had like Hungry Like the Wolf and one of my all-time favorite, Rio and Union of the, all that
Union
stuff.
of the Snake, yep.
Yeah. And then it went to that one,
Wild Boys?
Girls on Film.
Girls
Oh,
on
yeah,
Film.
Wild Boys. Well, Wild Boys was a little bit later.
Yep.
It wasn't on, but it went on Girls on Film, and it was just like this, a little bit of like, kind of like softcore porn, maybe.
Well,
or
that's what
something.
it was based on.
But-
That was the song was based on pornography.
Right, it was.
Yeah.
It was. And I was liking the music, and then when I saw that, I was like, son, oh my God, I cannot believe, and I was
What am I
constantly looking
looking
over
at?
my shoulder in case my parents came downstairs to like take a leak or something. And I was like, oh my God, and then after that, I loved Duran Duran, and so I was always like New Moon on Monday and all that stuff. And I didn't really, I knew they were from England, they're obviously, they've got the accents and they're from England and stuff. But that band was named after like a kind of a cult movie that Jane Fonda was
Yes,
in.
he was. Yep.
Yeah, and that was started by John Taylor, the bass player, who we mentioned last week
Yeah, we
in
did.
Neurotic Outsiders.
yes, Neurotic
Yeah.
Outsiders, the new band I love, thanks
Yeah.
to you talking
Oh,
about it.
yes,
I'm
yes.
totally into that band
Awesome.
now.
See?
Neurotic Outsiders are
They're good.
badass. Next time we hang out, I'll be talking about Pink and stuff. Probably. I don't even know.
Hey,
But,
at least that's what this is all about right here.
yeah,
Seriously.
it's cool
It's
because
awesome.
I would listen to stuff I would never ever listen to before, and So John Taylor and Nick Rhodes, the keyboarder, they started this band and they had a bunch of different guys in it, and they worked at this bar and they were busboys and bouncers and they did all that stuff. And in exchange for working at the bar, the managers would let them play
Oh,
sets.
cool.
And it was a big time, the bar right across the street from them, the Sex Pistols and the Clash played. So that's a way different type of a thing.
Two different genres.
Right.
big
It was
time.
a way. So I bet you, and I'm not for sure, but they probably started off a bit edgier and stuff, and then they got into as the band kind of gelled and.
Well, their first big MTV hit or their big breakthrough was a video and a song called "This Is Planet Earth." I don't know if you remember that song or
No,
not. It was
no.
very cheesy. It was very them in front of a white sheet, and they obviously have all this glammy makeup on and whatever.
Right.
But that was
Right.
the
Yeah.
first inclination of
So
what
we're-
Duran was going to be.
So were they more like on the glam side, like a David Bowie-ish, more than?
That's how it started.
Yeah, you know what?
Okay.
That's probably that's a good example to compare them to at that point. Like how he was sort of like the Ziggy Stardust type of
Yeah.
a thing. And when that song was Simon Lee Bon, was he singing for them at that time,
Yep.
or was
Yes,
he
he
not there?
was.
So
Yes,
he
he
was,
was. Yep.
because they had a couple other guys, and John Taylor was actually the guitar player, and then he switched to bass.
And then Andy Taylor came in.
And Andy Taylor came in, but during those early albums, he would play in the studio. He would play multiple instruments and things like that. But then he went on to play bass. And that's just an awesome band I like. But then they also were, they had a stylist, which is, they did certain things that just irk me. But in another example, like they collaborated. Obviously, as the '80s faded out, they weren't, they never broke up, but they weren't huge like they were.
Well, they lost members. Roger
And
Taylor had left.
They kept
Andy Taylor left.
Yeah, they kept funneling in different people and stuff, and they kind of tried to collaborate with Justin Timberlake at one point, which
that was way
What?
later.
God only knows
That was
what that
way later.
freaking shit sounded
Yeah, but you
like.
guys remember too, though, that the wedding album from Duran
Yeah,
Duran,
the
that
wedding
was kind of like the resurgence
Yeah,
in the '90s.
And that's
Yeah,
what
they
I was
did,
going to
yeah.
say. I never heard from them forever because they were big videos, and they were like one of the first bands. Well, Pink Floyd was one of the main bands that had light shows and things
Right.
like that, but they were one of the first bands that had huge video screens behind them where
Right.
they would. So if you were at an arena, you could see the band from the video screens and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
They were not the first, but they were the ones that they kind of tweaked that and fine-tuned it, and I guess they put a focus on that, and one of the things they were famous for. And so they sort of just fell out, and they kind of did their own thing, and I lost track of them, and I went on to other things. And then I heard this song off the wedding album, I think it is, or it's Duran Duran, the wedding album. It's called Ordinary World.
Yep.
And that brought me right back to him. That is such a badass song. I love, and the coolest part about it is it sounds just like Duran Duran, and it wasn't like
without Andy Taylor, without Roger Taylor,
and it
too.
wasn't like like if you hear some bands now, they just sound dated and
Right.
like they're trying to, or they're like trying to force a change and trying to get into a certain little niche because they think it's going to make money. It sounded just like Duran Duran, and they had a video, and it was so awesome.
So back to what they originally
Yeah,
had.
and it worked perfectly. The Cure's another example where they kind of kept their own style, and they
Right.
still, they still headline certain
Right.
bands,
Oh,
and
yeah,
they're a
right.
badass. The Cure and Duran Duran are in some ways parallel with me, but
It's probably musicians of the same age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably grew up in the same areas
right,
of the UK.
yeah, they very well may have. But the thing is that they kind of carried their style. Their
Mm-hmm.
style carried on. It might not be exactly what some people are listening to,
Yeah.
but it carries over. And I don't have too much to say other than I think when I was trying to find the guilty pleasure thing, I was looking at when I was a kid and I was going through these types of changes,
Yeah.
and I would connect with something,
Yeah.
and just like, remember when you were saying Hall and Oates or something? Were you serious about Hall and
Oh,
Oates?
I have all the.
But why? Was that because that was during the time when
it
you
was
were
our- it
younger?
was our
and
childhood.
There was
our
like something was going on
Right.
and things are going good, and you heard that, and it makes, when you hear it now, it makes you think back a little bit of that. like to something kind of cool.
Yeah.
Well, one thing really cool in closing on this, as I'm going to say, is they got a new album that they're coming out with.
Really?
And they're collaborating with my all-time favorite guitarist, John Frusciante from the Chili Peppers.
Really?
He's going to play on the new album, so I'm
That's
so
kinda
freaking
cool,
excited.
Yeah, will they maybe see the third resurgence of Duran Duran?
Yeah.
Because you put that, like you say, you know, Duran Duran with John Frusciante. That's going to be...
Yeah, I absolutely love John Frusciante. He's my all-time favorite guitar player of any guitar player ever. And
Wow, cool.
and to hear that he's going to be playing with Duran, he probably won't tour with them because he's kind of doesn't do that kind of stuff anymore. But it'll be so awesome to.
Who knows? Maybe he'll even throw on a show or something.
Well, and let's not close this out quite yet because there's some really cool tidbits about Duran Duran. Is like we talked about this last week. You know, the Power Station was spawned from Duran Duran.
Right.
You know,
Right.
Andy Taylor and John Taylor.
John Taylor.
You know, with Robert Palmer and Tony Taylor. I can't remember the drummer's name. He's dead now. But anyway, and then also
okay.
Simon Le Bon had his own type of supergroup side project from that called Arcadia. That came out at that time too.
Arcadia.
So
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. That they, when the band was kind of maybe on hiatus, they dipped into other interests.
Yeah.
Power Station was a little more edgier.
Yeah,
When the Arcadia stuff came out, it was very Duran Duranish.
Mm-hmm.
It's the lead singer for Duran Duran. What's it gonna sound
Right,
like?
he's going to sound how he
Right.
sounds.
It's so hard to switch that once you get that voice that's recognized with the very certain sound. Like I brought up Velvet Revolver, always to me sounds like STP with Slash on guitars.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but like you said, when you get a voice that's that recognizable, it's always going to place you back to that band. It's very hard to get that out of
Yeah.
there.
Well, and another thing was Andy Taylor, the guitar player for Duran Duran. He left Duran Duran at the height of this, when Duran Duran was at its height, to pursue a solo career. He came out with an album or two. One album I know for sure was called Andy Taylor Thunder. They had a song on there, "Don't Let Me Die Young." It was, if you ever check it out on YouTube, great song. He was not the guitar playing that Andy Taylor kind of showed us on Duran Duran. It was not really what he was. That guy was a hard rock
yeah.
guitar player. He was playing the music that was gonna pay him the big bucks.
Right.
Yeah.
And let's face it, back when we were kids, Duran Duran was all the hot chicks like Duran Duran.
Oh, really?
So
that was like their...
and it wasn't like a Backstreet Boys or
Right,
New Kids
right.
on the Block thing.
Right.
It was your
It's kind of like rebellion.
It was rebellious rock, but it was like your smoking hot high school chicks love Duran Duran.
The prom queens. And,
Oh yeah.
Who would be that now? What would like those hot chicks be digging on now?
There is nothing like Duran Duran.
There's nothing like anything like that, I think, anymore.
Because it unified.
Right.
Because
It
chicks
unified.
dug it and dudes dug
yeah,
it.
it's so hard
Yeah.
to find something like that now. It's just impossible.
I mean, I have a 16-year-old sister.
Yeah, so
I mean,
enlighten us. What would...
but see, we kind of have a little bit of a weird thing because we're Hispanic, so she's digging like the bachata type of music. But artists like Usher and stuff are getting into that, like
Right.
and like this strange, weird hip hop that Nez. I think I was having an argument with your son about some of the new kind of hip hop that he listens to.
Let's
'cause-
not even go there.
no, I mean, we talked about I kind of educated him on some, like, old Kanye West and some, old Lil Wayne stuff that he should probably look into before he digs off into the new stuff. But
Yeah.
it's a lot of electronic stuff nowadays and what.
But back to the Duran Duran thing. Duran Duran kind of unified. It was cool for chicks to listen to
And
Right.
dudes, yeah.
and
Yeah.
guys to listen to. And guys that dug alternative music dug Duran Duran. And guys that liked hard rock music like Duran Duran.
Right.
Yeah,
It was
I
just
wonder
like
how,
the
that's
unified
pretty
music.
unique. I wonder why that was.
It's just something that must connected with, it's just
Yeah.
one of those things that connected everybody at that
Well,
one
they
time.
had real musicians. John Taylor is a hell of a bass player.
Yeah.
Andy Taylor not only is a hell of a guitar player, but he's like a renowned, engineer and producer too.
Right.
So you're talking about like, guys that were on their game and they were making music maybe not necessarily they wanted to make per se.
Right.
It was paying them high dollar to do so.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's anything comparable to that nowadays.
No.
Which
So-
is sad. It's just a state
You know
of
what,
the music industry right now. It's just garbage.
Yeah, I kind of want to do some digging and see what it is that people are like. Because right now it seems pretty divided. There's the weird type of hip hop. There's the new country pop that everybody seems to be getting on.
Yeah,
And I
that's-
think,
different
and I
things.
think that's where you're going to find your answer. It's going to be like bad, or like honestly, like something like Bruno Mars.
But you know that there's those high school kids just like us that hate that crap, and they're
Oh, yeah.
listening
Yeah.
to something. They're like, "Oh, how can you listen?" Who's a country pop guy?
Ford Georgia Line.
How could you listen to Ford Georgia Line or
Yeah.
whoever, stuff like that or whatever, and they're listening to something,
They're
because
the ones that are listening to like the
20
new like Motionless in White.
yeah,
like,
so
the
20 years
hardcore-
from now or 10 years from now, they're gonna be the ones on the podcast.
You guys got to understand though, Duran Duran got their flack from the people that were the purists. They said, well, they have Nick Rhodes. He plays keyboards. That's not real music.
Right.
He plays synthesizers.
Right.
He's got all these different little sounds he makes on a synthesizer. That's not real music. Now the kids have anybody can be a musician.
yeah.
You have Pro Tools, you
Yeah.
can be a musician.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
I can
can't-
show you on my iPad. My kid made some real badass stuff. Like a
Hey,
20-second jam. I was
Right.
like, oh my god, you did that?
Right.
but-
And
So
he's
I mean,
like 7.
right. So but the purists back then thought, well, there should be no synthesizers at all.
Right, it should be just be guitar, bass, drums.
Now we're to the point now we're sitting around going, you don't even have to know how to even play an instrument, and you can make music.
Yep.
You know,
And it's just really sad. It's like all the talent from music is gone. And I think that's what the big issue is.
Which hold that, Jake, because Nez, I think we're working on a guest that can provide us on some more insight.
Tony Carducci.
So hopefully we get him on and we can kind of
cool.
see what his point of view is on that. But you're right, the musicianship is kind of fading. It's kind of gone, and it's sad to see. But bands like Duran Duran definitely, kind of had that thing going for them, that they were, musicians and they were able to be liked by a lot of, they cover a lot of stuff. So, but thanks, Eric, for bringing that stuff up, because, again, this is all stuff I want to go back and listen to, which I
Right.
will, so.
Such good just power pop.
And
stuff.
Eric, thank you for these hams.
Yeah, by the way, we'll plug that
beers
in.
that you got. I mean, you talk about, you just really go for it.
You know what? I'm
I
gonna tell you guys
appreciate
right
it.
this when the Hodge Park Studios is the hosting ground to the Side Seat podcast. I spare no expense.
There
You
go.
don't. You don't. This actually is premium beer born in the land of sky blue waters.
Sky blue waters.
And you can taste it right in there, which I love. And you know what? Each one tastes a little bit better than the one
I'm
before.
sure it
Tastes
does.
a little bit more
And
sweet.
these,
Blue.
you know
I
what?
thought
This
I-
studio reminds me of your basement also, which is really
It
weird.
looks like it, but it's really not.
Right.
And another thing is, the refrigerator's full of great beers like Imperial Stouts and
Oh,
porters.
but
and
you
everything
gave
like
us the
this.
fucking hams.
Only the best. Ding, ding, ding. Only the best.
Yeah,
But,
only the best.
Actually, this isn't that bad.
no, it's
And I drink PBR, so I have no room to talk
Right.
about anything.
Yeah, it's not bad. I like old style when I'm digging out cheap stuff.
So, old style here. Nez, you brought an interesting one to the table that I kind of didn't see coming from you a little bit. So,
Well, and this is kind of on the same long lines of the Duran Duran era, is that I was a big fan of the Tears for Fears album, Songs from the Big Chair. Now, not necessarily am I a huge fan of Tears for Fears, but the Songs from the Big Chair is a great album. Now, it was their second album, and it was released in 1985. The album before that was their debut album called The Hurting. They had one big hit on that one in the UK. It was maybe it had a small splash in the United States called Mad World. I don't know if anybody remembers that song.
Yeah, that song. Somebody covered that song.
I'm not
Oh,
quite sure.
no, okay, sorry.
you're thinking of something else.
No, Evergreen Terrorists. You ever heard of that band?
Yeah.
They might have.
They had a whole album called Writer's Block, and they did all these amazing covers, and that was one of them. So I'm getting off topic here, but they did amazing covers of songs that they did like Sunday Bloody Sunday. They did Stars by the band Plowed, right?
Mm-hmm.
That song, that whole album's amazing. Sorry, continue. on.
No, that's okay. And so
Ruining the record.
this album made such a huge splash because it had some major hits on it, and the songs that we remember as children when young teenagers was Everybody Wants to Rule the World.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout.
Cool song.
Head Over Heels, which was on a
Yeah.
soundtrack to a movie, and I don't remember what movie that song was on.
Probably a lot of
It might have been a John Hughes,
yeah, it was
possibly.
probably John Hughes.
And then there was Mother's Talk, which I don't think was a big hit here, but it was
Yeah.
over in the UK that was more of a big hit. Little tidbits of the members of Tears for Fears. Roland Orzabal was the guitar player and keyboardist, lead vocals on majority of the stuff. He was the lead vocalist for Shout. Kurt Smith, the bass bass guitar and vocals. He's the one that was the lead guitar, the lead vocalist for "Everybody Wants to Rule the World."
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
And the other two members, they had short stays. Originally, Ian Stanley on keyboards, synthesizers, and Manny Elias on drums. So, basically, what I'm trying to say is that this album was a top 40 album, but they were not considered top 40 music. They were considered new wave from the UK.
Yep.
They got their big break here in America. They were on Mercury Records, so it was going to go back then in the 80s. It was they were going to push for it to be a big hit. Help me out here. Oh, it was recorded at the Woodhall in Beckington, Somerset, UK. And so there's like a lot of little tidbits to it. Okay, so here's a little information for you guys. Is that do you remember? There was obviously you guys won't remember this, but in 1976 there was a television show about a woman called Sybil. She was a woman that had multiple personalities.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
You might remember some type of
That's
history.
based
of that.
off a
Movie,
true
too.
Yeah.
thing.
Well, they got the name of the album from that movie was because this woman only felt safe when she was sitting in her big chair.
Oh.
So
okay.
that's where they got it from.
Huh, I did not know that.
So they toured pretty heavily on this album. It was quite lengthy, and so then when it came to an end, they broke away from the industry for about 5 years. That was that long. I think they toured for about 2 years, maybe in promotions, what have you. And then I think it was 1989 or 1990. The Seeds of Love came out. They came back from that.
Right.
So that was a fairly big hit for them, but nothing like from songs from the Big Chair.
Yep.
So. Here's some history on it. In 1998, it was remastered and reissued with extended versions of Head Over Heels, which I own that. I don't have the original CD. I do have the 1998 version of it. And they had 2 bonus tracks of Shout and Everybody Wants to Rule the World. Not great.
Right.
Not great at all. And then once again, in 1999, it was remastered and reissued again with bonus tracks and then B-sides and remixes. The track listings is based with the special edition cassette of the album. Then in 2006, the album was re-released again on a 2-disc format with a full collection of B-sides and many alternative versions and remixes of the tracks.
Yeah.
And it's pumping money back.
Probably
Right.
not
Bring
that
us back.
But
Sales.
here's the really unique thing. To mark the 30th anniversary, Universal Music re-released it again in a 5 different formats on November 10th of 2014, including a 6-disc Super Deluxe edition,
man.
which will include 4 CDs and 2 DVDs.
Wow.
1 audio, 1 video.
Is there anything new?
This edition also includes a 30-page replica of the 1985 tour program and a 32-page booklet.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
yes, it is very interesting. It had such a huge impact on on the radio and on the charts. But so to give you guys just a little more tidbit on what this album did, in the United States it went number 1. The album went number 1. In Canada, it went number 1. In Germany, it went number 1. And then in the UK, their homeland, it never hit number 1. It went number 2.
Really?
In Austria, it only made it to number 22 on their Billboard charts. In France, it only made it to number 12. In the Netherlands, it went 2. New Zealand, it went 2. In Norway, it went to number 17. In Sweden, it went to number 25, and in Switzerland, it went to 5. Now, here's the breakdown of how it sold. In Canada, it went 7 times platinum, and 7 times platinum in Canada is 700,000.
Yeah.
It went 5 times platinum in the United States and went to 5 million.
Yeah.
So
That's a
Netherlands,
diamond,
it went I think so. I'm not sure. And then in the Netherlands, it went platinum, only selling 100,000. Germany, it only went to gold, selling 250,000. And the United Kingdom went 3 times platinum, selling 900,000. So there's some little tidbits and information. It's not an album that really knowledgeable about. I really don't know a whole lot about the musicians and whatever else, but it was just
Right.
pleasant to listen to. The whole album is good.
Right.
It's a good album.
I mean, I'm seeing things here like, Rolling Stone gave it a favorable review, and AllMusic gave it, 4.5 out of 5 and stuff. So I mean, when you look at a band like this, it's interesting to see how they did everywhere because they were pretty big. I mean, when you're saying number 1, number 2, 5 even doing that.
But here's the thing: is that it had all this success with top 40, but it really wasn't a top 40 sound.
Right.
So
Well, I think one of the things why it may have got so big in the U.S. is because they had a video for all of those bigger songs, and like Night Flight, Night Tracks, Friday
Yes.
Night Videos, and all that. They played they played that like crazy, and most people were watching that at that time.
Oh,
And then of
yeah.
course MTV and stuff too. So that's probably why it got so huge there. And I wonder like how much of that affected, because that's a pretty stark difference between the U.S. and any of the other places.
Well, I remember. Do you remember on MTV? They used to have the Friday night video fights. It's kind of like like how I put the albums on the
Yeah,
Quad
yeah,
City
yeah.
Music Lovers
Yeah.
page,
Okay.
and say, okay, which album did you like better? Well, they would take the 2 hot videos at the time and say, it would be call-in. You could call in. It was a 1-800 number,
Right.
and it would have
kinda.
and the Friday night video fights, the shout, the video for shout just would knock.
Everything out.
So yeah,
Everyone wants
for
to shout.
for a long time, it was just a call in. It was a
Right,
1-800
yeah.
number. It was and
One for this,
when
two
we
for
used to
this.
go to skate ranch as kids, to go roller skating on a Saturday night or a
The
Friday
skate
night,
ranch, bro.
right?
Man, that was big time.
They would show the Friday night video fight, and they would show each video, and then they would show them again like a half hour later. So you would get to see the videos twice in an hour.
Yeah.
And I think that the video fight would go on for like 2 hours. It was a really cool concept.
Yeah,
you know what I
it's-
mean?
maybe they-
But Shout dominated the Friday night video fights.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe you should do your daily night video fights. Nightly fights.
Yeah.
So, skate ranch. Wow, that's a nice one.
Yeah.
But
was
I mean,
back in the
is
day.
it safe to say that Roland and Kurt were pretty much Tears for Fears themselves then?
Well,
Like,
because
you know.
the Seeds of Love album, those 2 guys were the only obviously remaining members of it.
Yeah.
They were Tears for Fears.
yeah,
so.
but so none of these other like the Mania Elias.
Well, they were the Ian Stanley and Manny Elias. They were the the other founding members of it, but they didn't last.
Yeah,
Obviously,
no, but these guys, when you see Tears for Fears, they got some pretty significant looking faces. So,
Right.
Yeah.
and a sound too, which I definitely enjoyed a lot of this stuff off the album. So, and it's just interesting. Like I said, I mean, I was curious as to why you had brought them. So that's a pretty good pick. I mean, like you said, these aren't necessarily guilty pleasures.
Yeah, that wasn't so bad. That
No.
didn't hurt that much.
no, I really don't.
Not like
Really,
Pink, right?
Right. Yeah. Mine was.
Hey, except for stubby arms.
It's stub
I really don't have
Still
anything,
arms.
like I said, as a guilty pleasure. I mean, I have stuff where I'm like, if I'm sitting in painting or whatever else, I'm not listening to Anthrax, guys. I got to tell you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Hey, and that's cool. But like I said, Tears for Fears, Duran Duran, Pink, Coldplay, all good choices for this
Yeah.
podcast tonight. So good job, guys. I mean, I think that was pretty solid success, and I think we can get pretty passionate about, like, especially me. I could go on and on about Coldplay, so I don't feel them as a guilty pleasure. I look at them as probably one of my favorite bands, right there by Weezer and Van Halen. And,
Oh, I
and all that
love
stuff,
Weezer.
so. Oh,
Yeah,
do-
my kids love
do
Weezer.
they?
We were in the car. They're like,
Hold on.
Dad,
Ned-
put
Ned's is
on,
not a fan.
put on the Green album. Dad, can you put on? Hey, I thought, don't you have the Red out? Yes. Hang on. Let me switch discs.
There you go, yeah.
I play the Brown album every morning before I go to work.
Seriously, there you
He has some kind of hatred for
Yeah,
Weezer.
No, I didn't have any hatred to Weezer until this bozo
here
over
we
here
go.
went to Riot Fest.
We're gonna hear this story every podcast.
And he chose not to watch The Cure and go to Weezer
I
instead.
did watch Secure, though.
Yeah, that's-
You watched a song
You know
and
what?
a half.
That's not your fault. They shouldn't have put them both on at the same time.
and it was
That's
tough.
very
They were
unfair.
Whoa, time out. That is a no-brainer. I'm going to say this again.
No,
Weezer
man.
one day will play the Adler Theater. The Cure will
I doubt
always
it.
play football stadiums.
I'll bet you.
Right,
I'll
right.
bet you a Harris Pizza on that. Weezer will never play.
They'll
the
play
Adler Theater.
Adler
They will
size
never
theater.
play. The Adler Theater. They will never
Who is
play the
that
Adler
band?
Theater.
Alice in Chains played the Adler
They
Theater.
will never play the Adler
ZZ
Theater.
Top played the Adler Theater.
And those bands are a hell of a lot bigger than Weezer.
They will never play the Adler Theater. I bet. I will bet
Smashing
Harris
Pumpkins
beats them.
played.
The Adler Theater.
Did they really?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, and it was all B-sides. It was a show.
Intimate night.
No, what it was like that tour was dubbed as like for serious fans only. They didn't play any hits. They played B-sides, rare songs they never played.
Huh, I love the Pumpkins.
Yeah.
That would have been a cool show to see.
Yeah,
We
that
went
was-
to Lollapalooza, and the headliner was, of course, Jane's Addiction when it was at Grant Park a few years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Jane's Addiction was playing, and then I can't remember the other. And then if you walk way down to the other side of the park, this other band was playing, and my wife wanted to go and watch the other band, and it was like it was not a bad band. It wasn't a terrible band. Obviously, I'm drawing a blank now. And she was like literally gonna leave me and go, and I was like.
Hold on.
And I wanted to almost say, well, don't ever come back if you're gonna do this. Make a decision right now. She stayed, by the way.
Well, you know, back to the guilty pleasure thing is that I watched an interview with Tommy Lee one time, and I'm not a huge fan of Tommy Lee. I'm not a ginormous fan of Motley Crue, but he made a really good point. And you guys obviously can't see me doing this because we don't have cameras. But you can't be this guy all the time.
Yeah,
And that's
exactly.
The devil
Yeah,
horns.
yep.
The rock
I
and roll
know.
devil. You cannot be this guy all the time.
I'm also.
You're fake if you are.
Yeah, and that's
know.
exactly what I know exactly what interview you're talking about.
I go from devil horns to the head bob for hip hop, you know, because I'm a big fan of hip hop. So
I can't stand hip hop.
really, you know.
Oh, old school. Give me some.
No,
NWA.
I am. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Which
Oh, yeah.
I forgot to mention. NWA came out with a cassette tape on Record Store Day. It was straight out of Compton. I wanted to get, it was like
That's
$30
awesome.
bucks
That's
though. I was
kinda
like,
cool.
damn. So, but hey, you know, again, Eric, thanks for showing
Yeah,
up
thank
again.
you, man.
Really,
It was a
Yeah,
good
thank
time.
you so
And
much
you're-
for inviting me again.
First-
Anytime, if you are like lacking a guest, and there's nothing. I mean, I'm drinking cheap beer and talking about cool music
Only
and
the
learning
best.
new things.
See, yeah,
hanging out at
that's
the High
why you know
Studios.
I honestly look forward to doing this every week
Yep.
because of this stuff because
Yep.
we learn shit about.
Oh yeah.
Ding.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yep.
And we know we lose. We learn stuff about everybody,
I mean,
and like,
yeah.
and we all bring something completely different to the table, which I think is such an awesome thing.
Yeah.
and that's that's including our guests like Herb,
Yeah.
and Mitchell, and now Eric, and hopefully our future guests. Like I said, I really I'm excited to get a lot more people listening on the show and see where we go from here.
That's why we got to keep on pimping that page, man. You saw what happened today.
Yeah,
you know what I
and-
mean. Like you just push, and
Yeah.
people will listen.
And a big thank you to you guys once again for doing that for us.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out and listening. And
You know, we know you guys probably get invites and event invites and weird little notifications throughout the day, but the ones that we like to see are so and so like Side C podcast. So
you
thanks.
know, I love getting buzzed during the middle of the day while I'm watching a Cubs game or something like that, and get like so and so like Side C. I'm like, all right, sweet. And then like 2 seconds later, the same thing again. I love it.
So make sure you're on the listen for future projects that we got going on here. We're not quite sure yet. Watch the Facebook page, Quad City Music Lovers, Collectors, and Traders. Ooh, there we go. And
That's
and
the first time you got it right in all these podcasts.
all right, thank you. So make sure you guys are tuning into that page and the Side C podcast page, and checking for our updates because we got a couple things coming up and some things that you guys could possibly help us out, help with us
Yes.
soon. So be on the listen for that. And again, I want to let's pay the bills real quick. Pool man Mark Reedy, for all your above and below ground pool needs, make sure you give Mark Reedy a call. We'll post the number constantly. We'll start getting more flyers and pictures posted about that stuff.
And shirts.
And sure, oh, yep, hey,
Yeah.
you're spoiling it. No, but anyways, Rolling Smoke Barbecue in Rock Island, Illinois, right behind Kavanaugh's on 30th Street, right near the PepsiCo Center on the Augustana campus.
And he's our biggest fan.
He is a big fan, man.
Delicious food.
Yeah,
too.
I'm
Not
going
too-
there.
Awesome
Yeah, you,
guy.
seriously, next time
I'm
we
gonna go
go
there.
there, dude,
Let
you
me
need-
know, yeah,
you
'cause
come
I'm
there
gonna
and
go
eat
there.
some, dude. Their burgers,
I
phenomenal.
wanna
Nice.
try their
I want to
ribs.
try that. What is that black barbecue sauce? Is
No,
that from
that's
Well,
there?
that was
the-
on that Lucifuge burger.
We're trying to get
we're
him.
trying to
Don't
get
they
him-
have? Oh, you're
We're
trying to get
Mitchell
him.
to make it.
So
if
Blast him on there and
Yeah.
say, "Hey, make this burger." Or
He's
make
gonna have to.
Yeah, no,
and
no.
another
But
thing
either
is,
way, I'm still going.
and another thing is that he's only going to make it if people ask him to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
He'll investigate it if people say, what about doing this?
Well, maybe like to be a side C.
That's what I was going to say.
Podcast
it's,
special.
It's the side C burger, the Lucifuge.
That would be awesome.
So
Yeah.
Mitchell, if you're listening, let's get
Maybe
started on
You
it.
guys could do it
put
there.
the wheels turning on it, and then maybe he could have it ready for us, like around Halloween.
Oh,
Would that
that's
be cool?
freaking me out right now.
Yeah. Anyway, so
Well,
You
you know,
guys-
I always interject at the end of
Yes,
that
yes.
Side C podcast, the Gene Simmons quote. I really don't feel like it's appropriate on the guilty pleasures. I'd rather say a little something for what Rob Zombie.
ooh, okay,
It's
all right,
like-
we're different.
I never try anything. I just do it.
I like it.
Going a little Nike there. So hey, I agree with that. So guys, thank you for listening, and make sure you tune into the next one. We'll give you updates on that soon. So
Thank you guys.
thank
Thanks a
you
lot.
much.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Who wants a beer?
I
Yeah, I'll
want
take
There
one
we
more.
go.